The government is going after a conservative news organization for daring to criticize the left during an election. Again. This latest instance comes from Elections Canada, which has launched an investigation into Rebel News over a book that was published by Rebel during the federal election campaign. That book, entitled The Libranos, What the Media Won't Tell You About Justin Trudeau's Corruption, as the title suggests, made a pretty stark case against Justin Trudeau and the Liberals. It was a piece of journalism, something that was aimed at producing in a journalistic fashion a list of the arguments you'd see in opinion columns, and in fact arguments you did see in opinion columns from a number of publications throughout the election. But because it was published as a book, because there were signs promoting it, Elections Canada is investigating as to whether it was an illegal book. Now, if this sounds familiar, it's because it's happened already to the Rebel as well. In the last Alberta election, Sheila Gunn Reid had a book that took aim at Rachel Notley, had a very similar promotional campaign, and was, yes, investigated by Alberta's elections commissioner. Now, in that investigation, which was very much targeted to Rebel and Sheila Gunn Reid, eventually they determined there was no wrongdoing, although still released a scathing letter saying that even though you've done nothing wrong, you should be very grateful the law is worded the way it is. Well, yes, that's the point. You didn't break the law. It doesn't matter if you broke a rule that isn't actually law, that the investigator wishes were a law. Whether that's going to happen in this federal investigation, we don't know. Certainly that's what it should be. This is a free speech matter. You don't have to have read the Libranos. You don't have to like the Libranos book to understand that anyone should be able to release a commentary or analysis, even a politically pointed one, in an election campaign, whether it comes in the form of a blog post, a book, a podcast, or even a message sent by carrier pigeon. Who the heck cares? This is an example of the government trying to go after whatever way it can silence voices most effectively. Scouring through the book. If it's anything like the Alberta investigation, they'll be asking for receipts, schedules, editor's notes, all of these things that don't really address the fundamental question of whether, in fact, we protect free speech during elections. Are we going to say that you can release a book of this nature outside of elections, but not when it matters the most? Because that is the implication of this, that we are supposed to suspend free speech because there's an election campaign going on, when that is the most important time of the year, the time of a multi-year cycle to talk about political issues, and yes, to even advocate on them, or at the very least raise a narrative about one particular party, which is what this book clearly did. We don't know where it's going to go in the future, but we do know that Rebel is fighting it tooth and nail. Ezra Levant said, "We will never stop speaking freely and criticizing Trudeau and any other politicians we like." I think he means we like to criticize, not politicians he likes. But regardless, it doesn't matter. This is going to be a very test case. And I hope that other media organizations stand up and realize this is important. You know, the media is not a fan of Rebel. The media, similarly, from the mainstream perspective, isn't a fan of many conservatives. But we do know that if rights of Rebel or True North or other organizations that might have a political tack that differs from the mainstream are hit by the government, it sets a precedent that allows the government to go after everyone, which is why press freedom is something that needs to be universally supported. True North is doing this, but we need your help. We're a grassroots organization. If you can chip in to support our honest and independent journalism, please do. There's a link in the description box, or you can head on over to tnc.news. For True North, I'm Andrew Lawton.